Today I would like to talk about sports psychology and managing stress. If you're like me and if you watch a lot of sports, especially if you watch the Olympics, for example, you've probably learned that in addition to being elite athletes who have talent and who've worked really hard and who do deliberate practice, that something that separates athletes who will win the medals from those who won't is a mental component or a psychological component. And it has to do with being able to manage the stress and anxiety of competing in a very pressurized environment. And I'll be telling you about the work of a man named Wayne Halliwell. He was a professor in kinesiology at the University of Montreal. And he's a sports psychologist who's worked with many of our best Olympic athletes, both in the winter and summer. And he's come to my motivation course and given talks. He did it for many years in a row. So I picked up some of the things that he does with athletes. And most of what these techniques do is to help people cope with the pressure and the stress. And it involves refocusing, and it involves boosting your sense of confidence in what you can do. Some of you might be elite athletes. In fact, a surprising number are, is what I found from teaching here at McGill. But many of you are not. And I think that the techniques that are used in sports psychology can be applied to music performance, school performance, and other kinds of performances. Here is a photo of Wayne Halliwell, and he's at the bottom of the mogul ski run with the Dufour sisters, who won medals at the last Olympics and the one before that. And Wayne was their sports psychologist who prepared them to compete both in World Cup matches and especially in the Olympics. And Wayne, he's a warm, reassuring fellow who I'm sure would be a great coach, but he's also a very skilled psychologist who knows exactly what athletes need to feel ready for the big performance. He also worked with Jennifer Heil, who is a McGill graduate and who won a gold medal in the moguls, and Alexander Bilodeau, who won gold medals in consecutive Olympics. When Wayne came to give his lectures to my class, he spoke about how he worked with all of these world-class athletes. And it was a very collaborative process. And now I'll focus in on what that work involved. I will say, though, that the reason I'm doing this is because I think this is a stressful time of the semester. Because everything is online, I think many of us professors have come up with the idea that we should get you engaged by giving you a lot of quizzes, assignments, midterms. And I do think it has gotten you engaged, but it's probably made you very anxious and stressed because there's always another test coming up. And I think that some of the techniques that are used with athletes are things that we could use as well and that students can use. So let me tell you about 4 different techniques, but I would group them in 2 categories. And these are things that Wayne Halliwell does with the Dufour sisters and with Jennifer Heil. So the number one thing when you're thinking about difficult competitive performance is you want to prepare the athlete so that they feel ready. And that has to do with making sure that they have a high sense of self-efficacy. And what that refers to is your beliefs about your capability to perform the specific actions that are required. So for Jennifer Heil, she's a mogul skier, and she has to be able to ski down the hill over the moguls or around the moguls. And then at 2 points in her race, she has to fly into the air and do some kind of amazing routine and then land well and then continue to do the moguls. Now, you can imagine that what I described, even though I described it badly, is a very complicated, tricky thing. And The thing about self-efficacy is that it's specific. So it's not the same as self-esteem, which is more generalized. And self-efficacy doesn't necessarily match your actual skill. And usually it's better to feel like you have more self-efficacy than your actual skill. The problem with self-efficacy is it can be fleeting. So if you've seen Olympic figure skaters, what you see is a lot of great skaters who unfortunately seem not to perform up to their usual level. Sports psychologists believe that figure skating at the elite level is like 50 to 90% mental. And what they mean by that, it's managing your beliefs about your self-efficacy and then managing your arousal regulation. So first thing you want to look at is self-efficacy. What Wayne Hallowell does with his athletes is he spends a lot of time meeting with them and helping them to prepare a list. He calls it the I know list. And on this I know list, you write as many things as you can about how well prepared you are. So if I'm an Olympic athlete and I have the competition this weekend, I might write, I'm feeling good physically. I've been doing my visualization training. My coaches have really prepared me for this event. I've been doing well on the World Cup circuit. I've been eating really great. I just became a vegan, but I'm taking supplements and I'm the best I've ever been. You would write down 10 things, if you can, and keep this list with you. And what the athletes do is that when they're actually at the competition site and they're getting ready for their ski or for their run, they look at their list and they reassure themselves. And you have to make sure the list is well put together, and the key here is to make someone feel confident. The next thing that Wayne does is he helps people have a few key thoughts, really simple things. So Jennifer Heil, she only had 2 thoughts when she was at the top of the hill. And her thoughts were forward and soft. The forward had to do with being aggressive on the moguls. The soft had to do with landing softly and flexibly. And Wayne Hallowell believes that if you don't have a couple thoughts that you focus on when you're getting ready to perform, your mind will drift to the last time you fell or the last time you did. By having positive, clear thoughts about what you want to focus on, it provides you the focus you need. The other approach you might take is by thinking of what would be a good focus plan to get you ready, and also to think about a refocus plan if things don't go well. So for a focus plan, it's probably useful to think about previous dates you've gone on and whether there's something you did to prepare or to relax or to get ready in the past that seemed to work well, and then to do that again. Or you could just think of some new ideas to do things differently than you have. Now, the refocus plan is trickier, but if you were an athlete, you'd have to expect that something might go wrong, and then you have to think about how you could get your feet on the ground again. So I can give you an example of that. When I was 20 years old, I went on a date with a girl I was really crazy about. It was a second date, and I wanted to take her to see a movie. And unfortunately, the movie I chose was not an appropriate date movie, I would say. So I took her to see The Deer Hunter, which was a violent Vietnam War movie in which the characters suffer either physical harm or psychological harm. And it's the kind of movie where at the end you're speechless. Now, I didn't have a plan for how to recover from that. And I wish I had. I have a feeling that my life could have been very different than it has been. But it shows you these sports psychology strategies are not only useful to athletes, but they can help us handle stressful situations. They can help us prepare. They can help us recover. They can help us boost our self-efficacy.